Adam Creighton is amazing. You already know that. You can read him in the Oz, and it's so good to have a chat to him every single week. Great man. What about the Democrats? You've written beautifully about this today, which is just about how woke and how rich they are, and how far away they are from the constituency that they take for granted to vote for them all the time.
Yeah, look, it's just been extraordinary the first 9-10 months of the Biden presidency. I mean, there's just been so many crazy statements, really, by very senior people in the administration. I mean, just recently we had the Transport Secretary Pete Buttigieg talking about racism that's built into highways, and of course this is during a huge supply crisis that the country's going through. And the Vice President was talking about the racist allocation of trees, and they make so much of this push for gender equity and so forth. Flowery language, meaningless kind of ambitions, and it's clearly not working. They've been falling very rapidly in the polls, and I think it is partly to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example, right? We showed this on the show a couple of weeks ago. This is Pete Buttigieg, the Transport Secretary, who's doing everything he best to throw Kamala Harris under the bus. He'd like to be the next Vice President. Very little chance of happening. Have a look at this.
The construct of how you will deconstruct the racism that was built into the roadways. Can you talk to us about how that could be deconstructed?
If a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and a black neighborhood, or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or there would have been, in New York was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
Again, this is what they spend their time. Every single day, this is what they obsess about.
And also money too. The US government's going to spend $1 billion just to look at that particular issue of racism in roads. I mean, it's pretty amazing. At the same time, you've got inflation of 6%.
Yeah, but again, right, so, okay, I can understand that a highway was built for an original purpose. Well, obviously it's not used for that purpose any further. If you want to rename every road in the United States, fine, fair enough. You want to have, a statue of prominent people who were, slaves, later freed, great. How does that cost $1 billion?
Yeah, look, it's just extraordinary, and it's terrible politics at a time when inflation is 6.2%, the highest in 31 years, and your polls are sinking. And just on your original point about the Dems being woke and wealthy, I mean, the wealthy aspect's really interesting too. It used to be, of course, the Republicans were the party of the high-income earners here, but that has certainly changed in the past 20 years, and much more households who earn more than $500,000 a year here now vote Democrat. Which I think is a very interesting cultural shift and explains a lot of the policy making going on too, I might add.
No, I agree completely. I think it's something we should be looking for here. Again, the people that have made their wealth and pull up the drawbridge and demand massive change as a result of their guilt. Biden and Xi, they, of course, had their closed-door meeting, but we got to see a little bit of what was before the cameras. Here's part of what happened there. Roll this one.
As I've said before, it seems to me our responsibility as leaders of China and the United States is to ensure that the competition between our countries does not veer into conflict, whether intended or unintended. Just simple, straightforward competition. And it seems to me we need to establish some common sense guardrails to be clear and honest where we disagree and work together where interests intersect, especially on vital global issues like climate change.
What does any of that mean, Adam?
Yeah, well, look, the problem is there were no guardrails established. I think it's fair to say the meeting was a bit of a disappointment, certainly from the US side. The briefing after it to journalists, they basically said that there was nothing concrete achieved at all. And so, frankly, it was hard to write the story after the meeting because there was really nothing came out of it except that they were talking to each other. And that's a good thing. It's certainly a good thing they're talking to each other. And, it should be encouraged because, it would be a total disaster if there was a military confrontation. But in terms of guardrails, no, there were none established.
Well, but also, we have this nonsense where China is able to get away with a lot of what it gets away with by self-declaring itself to be a developing nation. The United States isn't going to challenge it. There's nothing in this conversation to challenge that. But the consequences of them being the developing nation means if climate change matters to Biden, he lets them off the hook.
Yeah, look, that's right. I mean, the climate change agreement that the two countries reached last week is purely symbolic in my view, and it was trying to salvage some respect for the COP26 meeting. I mean, one of the interesting things that's just come out in the last 12 hours or so is that there's going to be strategic arms limitation talks between China and the US, the kind of thing that the US does with Russia. But I mean, I think it's a bit of a distraction from the central issue around Taiwan. I mean, if both nations reduce their nuclear warheads by half, they'd still have enough weaponry to, destroy the world 10 times over. So I don't think reducing the weapons is really going to help that much. It's more about not using them at all.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, so good to talk to you, mate. Looking forward to getting there in person one day soon.
Likewise, Paul.
Meantime, we can just meet in
Indeed.
Vegas in 6 months' time. It'll be great. We'll share a smoke. Thank you, great man.
Indeed. Have a great night.
Good on you.